Hi guys, Fatal Mercy here with another video for you. In a few days time, patch 1.4 will be released together with a rerun of Venti and Child. In this video, I want to show you how I built my Venti, what weapon I use, and what alternative weapons I recommend for Venti. I will show my DPS output with different type of builds so you can decide which one works best for your situation. If you want to know whether to pull for Venti, how to build him and a team around him, then watch this video till the end. I hope I made myself clear, so let's get into it. For my first build, I have used a high crit build. I have a crit rate of 62.2%, a crit damage of 110.4%, and as you can see, a very low amount of elemental mastery. So this is the build I used in the first example. For the second build, I tried to see if increasing my elemental mastery will increase the DPS output of Venti. So what I did is I changed my circlet, which is crit rate at the moment, to a piece which has elemental mastery. And I did the same for the timepiece. So again, I switched it to a piece with elemental mastery as a main stat. So now our stats look like this. So for his normal attack, Venti fires up to 6 arrows dealing physical damage. A charged arrow will deal animal damage. His elemental skill has a press and hold function. Pressing will generate a small upcurrent which deals animal damage. Holding his elemental skill will create an upcurrent at his location which can be used to hover. Now his elemental burst is the most interesting ability. He fires an arrow which will create a storm eye that sucks opponents and deals continuous animal damage. When the storm eye comes into contact with any other element, it will fuse with that element, dealing even more damage of that type. To give you an example, after Bennett has used his elemental burst, the character in the field of his burst will be imbued with pyro. And if that character walks into the storm eye, then the storm eye will infuse with pyro. The damage from his burst can be split into 3 parts: a continuous animal damage over time, an extra continuous elemental damage over time in case an element is fused, and a reaction damage from swirl, which is another element together with animal. The continuous animal damage over time procs 20 times while the storm eye lasts. That's 8 divided by 20 every 0.4 seconds. This means that the storm eye deals 60.2% damage every 0.4 seconds. The second damage type is the additional elemental damage, which is half of the animal damage over time, and can only proc 17 times during the duration of the Storm Eye. The damage from these two depend on your total attack, crit rate, crit damage. The third type are swirl reactions. The damage from swirl reactions only depends on elemental mastery and the level of the character. It does not depend on the attack, and swirl damage cannot crit. In this video we compared two different builds with Venti, and so I made a table which shows his DPS output in both builds. For the first build, I made a list, and as you can see, these are the numbers, non-crit numbers, the numbers when he crits, and the amount the damage type procs. I calculated the average damage for Venti when he's not inside Bennett's burst, which becomes 36,160. And the same I did for when he was inside Bennett's burst, which came to 50,386. So there's a big difference, almost a 15k damage increase when using with Bennett. For his second build, we can see that the number is a lot lower. It's around 3,000 lower. And when we was inside Bennett's burst, the amount was around 6,000 lower. So based on these numbers, we can say or conclude that the first build, the crit build, was more efficient than the second build. Based on this, we can say that you should focus mainly on crit damage and crit rate and attack rather than elemental mastery, unless your artifacts with elemental mastery have better substats. For the weapon, I used the Skyward Harp. It provides a lot of useful stats which increase the damage of Venti, even when he is not on the field. The weapon increases his crit rate, his crit damage, and every hit, including the procs from his burst, inflicts a small attack in the form of physical damage. The ammo bow is usable on Venti if you plan on using Venti as a main DPS, but I don't recommend using him as a main DPS, but it's still possible. If you don't have any 5-star bow, I would recommend any of the following 4-star bows: the Favonius Warbow and the Stringless. Both bows are good, but the best bow is situational and depends on your artifact substat. Ideally, you want to have an energy recharge between 160 and 180%. So if you feel like you don't have enough energy recharge, then I recommend the Favonius Warbow. If you, however, do have enough energy recharge and it's higher than 160, like me, then you probably want to go for the Stringless. Sadly, I don't have the Stringless, so I can't really tell how much better it is than the Warbow DPS-wise. And as for the 3-star weapons goes, I recommend the Slingshot. It's the best 3-star weapon for Venti. The new upcoming weapons in patch 1.4, the LG of the End and Ali Hunter, will also suit Venti when used as a support. In the future I will make a video on them when we know more about them. If you decide to go for his Constellations, then I have two suggestions for you. The second Constellation you could go for if you want to use Venti with another animal character or with your main DPS which has a physical build. The other constellation I would suggest is the fourth one, which increases or maximizes the damage of Venti. I would not recommend other constellations or go further than the fourth one. Venti's crowd control ability makes him suitable in any kind of team comp. He can make it easier for your main damage dealer to deal damage. But first we need to choose our main damage dealer. In this example, I want to have my Razor as our main damage dealer. And the other two roles I want to support our Razor. And in this case, we would want a healer, and I choose for Chi-Chi, mainly because the superconduct reactions I can make will increase the DPS done by Razor. A lot of the times, the skills of Chi-Chi are on cooldown, so we probably would want to add another character that enables some other elemental reactions for Razor. So we could, for instance, add someone like Zhangling to have some overload combinations with our Razor. So this is a setup which can really work well with Venti. One of the team comps I personally like to run my Venti with is my team comp with my Diluc, Fischl for the overload combination, and Bennett for the pyro resonance, as well as a healer, and Venti to crowd control enemies for my Fischl and my Diluc to be able to deal damage to a lot of enemies at the same time. Another example of how you could use Venti is also how I personally use him as a battery. So he just functions to give your main DPS or damage dealer energy recharge. And in this case, I am using him with Xiao. So Xiao has an energy recharge issue, and Venti in this case can by using his elemental skill, he can generate energy particles for my Xiao. So we've almost reached the end of the video. In this video, I've provided you with some tips on how to build Venti and make him the most efficient support. He is a very unique hero with a unique skill set. Other characters cannot imitate him. The only character that came close to his skill set is Sucrose, but still even Sucrose is not as good as crowd controlling than Venti. So, to sum up, if you want to, or if you need a character who's able to crowd control enemies very efficient, then I really recommend going for Venti, because he is amazing DPS support.